Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel. In this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. First, we're going to start with Kyiv, with political crisis, with the fightings between the president of Ukraine Vladimir Zelensky and the head of Ukrainian army Valery Zaluzhny. Yesterday, the Russian, probably special forces, created a very nice quality, deep, like a fake update. On this video, we can see Zaluzhny, who was making something like a speech. He was talking about this common situation on the front lines. He was talking that Zelensky is a dictator, that Zelensky started genocide of Ukrainian nation, that people should take their weapon, turn back and start moving in direction of Kyiv. So that was a very well prepared deep fake update. And to tell the truth, when I was watching this video for the first time, I believed that was a real piece of news. I was very shocked. First of all, later I read comments and a lot of people start discussion, and we found out that was just very good but deep fake. Anyway, I believe that people were shocked who was watching this video, and no matter that deep fake information, very interesting update we got this morning. And the Russian sources are saying that no matter that video was fake, no matter the current situation, the sources are saying that Ukrainian special forces captured Zaluzhny. Currently, this information is not in the public field, but he was already captured, and he wasn't arrested. He's not like in the jail. The Ukrainians and the Zelensky tried to force him, Zaluzhny, to support Zelensky publicly. So like to say in the camera that I support Zelensky, he's the best man ever, and Ukrainians, we need to unite again along with this person. So this is the current situation. Now let's move to the ground, to the situation on the ground. Let's first start with the Kherson direction, where the Russians where the situation for the Russians is getting worse and worse every single day. Not like with very big steps, but we can say that the current day is a little bit for the Ukrainians, a little bit better for the Ukrainians than the previous one. Not like twice as better, but a little bit, 1%, let's call it like this. The Ukrainian sources published more videos and more details of FPV drone strikes against the Russian forces. I know that the Ukrainian bank of the Dnieper River, is located on the hill, and the Russian side is in the lowland. So the Ukrainians also have a lot of radars among the islands, a lot of electronic warfare equipment, a lot of radar, a lot of communications, probably Starlink communication that they use to support the fly of their FPV drones again above the Russian territory. The Ukrainians probably have endless number of these FPV drones, and I read a few months ago update that Ukrainians buy around 60% of FPV drones in the world market, sizes. So as you can see on these videos, on these scenes, the Ukrainians were attacking the Russian armored vehicles, personal carriers, tanks, and everything that moves along the streets in Krinky and Kherson was under very heavy Ukrainian fire. Furthermore, we also got a very interesting update from the south of Krinky. For example, on this video we can see another usage of Ukrainian FPV drone against Russian artillery system. The most important thing that you need to note on this video, let's take a look at this till the end, that as a result of FPV drone strike, the Russian lost another artillery system or maybe supply machine, but this is not the most important. The most important, take a look at the quality of the video. You see that the quality, that means that the drone at this point was losing the signal. So basically, based on this video, we can say that Ukrainians do have established control over the territory, over the circle around, something like this. So everything that located in this area is under complete Ukrainian control. Everything that is in this, let's say, white cloud can be attacked and can be reached by the Ukrainian FPV drones. And this is a very bad news for the Russians. Furthermore, if we take a look one more time at Krinky, there are no changes on the ground, but the Ukrainians currently don't have the goal to capture Kherson. Currently, both sides, either the Russians and the Ukrainians, try to reduce each other's manpower. So the main purpose is to destroy machines, vehicles, soldiers, for infantry, and either the Russians and the Ukrainians try to operate with long-distance weapons. The Ukrainians are using the FPV drones, and the Russians are using the guided bombs and probably artillery forces, flamethrower systems, and many other types of weapons. Very interesting, and I think that we need to pay attention to the village by the name of Kherson, this area. If we increase the number of updates, let's say from the 1st of October, we're gonna see significant focus of Ukrainian forces in this area, and we see almost complete absence. Let's say, no, we have some like Russian counterattacks. We see that the islands, these villages like Lvovo, Burgunka, Mikolskaya, Berislav, Novoberislav are under very heavy bombardment with guided bombs. But there are like few options when talking about Khersonka. Either the Russians concentrated their main forces, their main operational reserves in this village to have possibilities and to be flexible between, let's say, Krynki and Dniepriane, and to have possibilities for the Russian forces, if it necessary, to send, if it necessary, forces in Krynki, let's say, to stop the Ukrainian forces, or to send their forces in Dniepriane. So maybe this is something like operational center of operational Russian reserves. So, and this is the reason why the Ukrainians are so focused. There are a lot of like buildings, lot of places where the Russians can hide their armored vehicles, and that's it. The second option is that the Ukrainians are planning to establish the second foothold in this area, exactly in this city, and currently they're trying to reduce the Russian possibilities, and when time comes, the Ukrainians will try to cross Dnieper River once again and to capture this village as well. Anyway, currently we can't say whether the Russians are winning or the Ukrainians are winning. It's like it's useless talks. We can't say like this. Now we're saying that either the Russians and the Ukrainians try to reduce the manpower of each other, and currently this is a attritional war. Who has better supply, better forces, bigger number of infantry, and so on, will win this battle. But we know that Ukrainians have endless resources and manpower, so for now it's like 50-50. I can't tell you for 100% that the Russians are winning or the Ukrainians are winning. We can make a lot of theories, a lot of talks that this situation is good for the Russians because the Ukrainians need to spend time to cross river to support their forces. They have significant losses, and they do have significant losses because according to the Ministry of Defense report, every single day we got more and more numbers of more and more losses from the Ukrainian side. But from the other side, we see another point of pressure in this direction, that the Russians need to keep some reserves in this area that the Russians could use somewhere in Zaporozhye area. So everything is very complicated and not so simple as for the first point of view and for the first side. Now we're moving to another interesting area, to Ugledar direction, and today we got some updates, more updates from this territory to be more precise. The Russian sources, if you remember, yesterday published updates that the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to enter the tree lines and to develop some progress along this area, and the main direction of the Russian offensive operation is to, let's say, get this tree line and to capture every single tree line below this white tree line and so on. But today the Russian sources published the video how they were bombing all these tree lines with multi-launch rocket systems, as you can see. And we need to understand one thing: the Russians will never attack their own positions with any type of weapon. So if we see this bombardment, that means that there are no Russians in this area, and the Russians are very far away from this territory. So maybe the Russians somewhere in the southern part of these tree lines, like as far as possible, let's say somewhere in this area, maybe they have such a progress, but the chances that the Russians somewhere inside of these tree lines is getting to zero. So anyway, it doesn't mean that the Russians are not planning to continue. Obviously, the scenes that we just saw were something like artillery preparation, and probably today the Russians will make another attempt. And furthermore, if the updates and talks that the Russians managed to get closer to the Ukrainian position, that means that they managed to enter the tree lines and the trenches, and the only thing the Russians need is to clear the trenches that are located on the north of Mykolaiv. But these are not the only updates from Ugledar direction. For example, today the Russians published another video of heavy bombardment of Ukrainian positions in the farms on the south of Ugledar. From one side, we can say that this is like another artillery preparation or another military routine where the Russians managed to discover Ukrainian positions, and now they try to bomb this territory, trying to destroy Ukrainian shelters, strongholds, Ukrainian forces, and so on. And probably you would be correct, but before we make any conclusions, let's update this map for previous 2 days, the 7th and 8th of November. And we're gonna see that that update was not the only one from this territory. First of all, I would like to pay your attention to the video that we got from Ugledar also yesterday. On this video, we see that the city is under very heavy bombardment. And there is only one reason to bomb Ugledar, not to get manpower, obviously, because it's like a stronghold with significant number of high-rise buildings. The only reason to bomb Ugledar is to pin down the Ukrainians and not to allow them to concentrate their forces, to collect some reserves and to send them, let's say, in direction of Mykolaiv or to the south in direction of Pavlovka. Because there was another video from this area how the Russians using FPV drone attacked the Ukrainian positions also in this area. So I believe that the Russians currently are trying to attack not in direction of these three lines, but also the Russians are trying to return or establish control over the southern part of Ugledar. So basically to cross the river, because there is a river, this one. Let's add the map, the blue line. So this is the river, and basically the Russians are trying to destroy the Ukrainian positions, suppress them, and probably we're gonna see some storming attempt from the Russian side in this direction. So just to capture, just to create some foothold on the Ukrainian side of this Kashlygach river, and to prepare the foothold for further offensive operation Ugledar. So first they need to resolve the issues on the eastern flank, on the southern flank, and maybe then they will make another attempt to storm Ugledar. Who knows? Today I believe we're going to receive more updates from Novomikhailivka. Yesterday there were very heavy clashes around the village, but yet we haven't received like geolocations, or at least we had received a lot of videos, but most of them weren't geolocated, so we need to wait some time, and then we're gonna reduce some fog of war above this territory. Interesting updates are coming from Avdiivka. We got at least two interesting updates. The sources are saying that the Russians managed to improve their positions a little bit to this on the southern direction of Avdiivka. They got a little bit closer to the settlement, to the Black Khimik, and this is the area I'm talking about. So the Russians continue improving their positions, and like the talks about reducing the distance between Severna and Russian positions probably is correct one. Anyway, there are still a lot of work to do, but as you can see, the Avdiivka news is tightening every single day. Very interesting updates are coming from the northern part. Yesterday we discussed the video of Russian tank who was operating among these fields and who was attacking. So when this icon of AK-47 is the area of Russian tank, who yesterday was like, this is the tank and this is the area, and that tank was attacking the Ukrainian positions along these three lines. We have like added the icon of bomb. So that means that this is like 100% confirmation that yet the Russians haven't established control over these three lines. So I believe that for better understanding, it's better to show this territory under Ukrainian control. So another interesting update, we got some very interesting military analysis from this territory from the Russian sources, and the Russians are saying that currently the Russians are not going to attack Stepovo and to attack Berdychi or the chemical plant, and the talks about the Russian progress, let's say in direction of Stepovo or Berdychi, is just rumors and speculations. The Russians haven't crossed, they have crossed the railways, but they haven't established like a strong foothold, and that's military experts are saying that if the Russians want to continue their offensive operation further, first they need to develop their foothold along the railways at least for 5 kilometers. So this line, this area, let's say this from somewhere from Terikon to the north should be 5 kilometer distance, so this line. And if we calculate the distance of these of the railways that the Russians need to establish control, so this is 5 kilometers. So as you can see, the Russians have passed probably just 60% of the necessary foothold. According to the video we got yesterday, the Russians have already just started the bombardments of these three lines. So probably this week, until the end of this week, the Russians will try to establish control over the final railways, over the final tree line, and only after this development, the Russians will start storming Berdychi and Stepovo. Without this foothold, highly unlikely the Russians are going to do this. So if we will summarize, the Russians first of all need to establish 100% control over this territory, and this is exactly what the Russians are doing right now. This morning, yesterday in the evening, yesterday in the morning, and so on. And After this, the Russians will continue and they will start storming Berdichi and Stepovo from many directions, and obviously the Ukrainians have no chances if the Russians are able to capture this foothold, or have no chances to to hold these positions under the Russian pressure. So this is the situation in Krasnogorovka. Furthermore, not very interesting but very brutal updates are coming from Donetsk. The Ukrainians bombed this city heavily yesterday, and as you know, the Russian Federation announced the urgent meeting in the Security National Council because of bombardments of Donetsk with cluster rounds. So the Ukrainians are doing real crimes, real military crimes, and currently the Russians don't know how to stop this. And the main reason why the Ukrainians are bombing Donetsk with cluster rounds is they want to, probably it's maybe an act of revenge from one side, but from the other side is to slow down the Russians at least for one day, at least for 1 hour. So we'll see what is going to be next, but the situation is very bad. And more updates are coming from Bakhmut. The Russians continue advancing on the line between Bergovka and Bogdanovka. They managed to improve some positions. I added this icon softly, but the sources are saying that there is a progress. Probably today we're going to receive more updates, and maybe the Russians have established control over few more tree lines, trenches. So we see that the Russians are moving. They have some progress. And one more time, the main purpose of this attack is to force the Ukrainians to step back from Klishchiivka and Andreevka, or at least to slow down the Ukrainians for some period of time, or just to slow down them and not to allow them to develop their offensive operation further. And that's it for this short video. Military Summer channel reminds to condemn any violence in Ukraine. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes to my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.